Yeah, greetings and welcome to you all, comrades. Welcome to our Consciousness Study Group. This is our Saturday Unification class where we meet every Saturday to discuss Africa unification. Once again, it's a pleasure to have this session with you. And to those who will be watching our recording once again, feel free to share your comments with us. Greetings, Sister Chisomo. How are you and what's going on in Malawi and where you are? Sister Chisomo, greetings. How are you and what's going on wherever you are?
Hello.
Hello, Sister Chisomo.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And how are you?
I'm equally fine. How's Malawi or wherever you are?
Oh, a lot happening. There's too much. Yeah, a lot is happening and it's a lot.
Can you share one or two of the lot that's happening?
A lot of arrests, new cabinet, a lot of, I don't know what to call it. Usually people will demonstrate, isn't it? Or they will, but there's a huge uprising through social media. So that is making the government very angry and nervous. And I believe they've gone to get some people, some specialists from Ghana to come and help find these people behind these social media platforms. Some company from Ghana, which is very interesting.
So does it mean what's going on in Kenya in terms of social media activism is going on in Malawi as well?
Sorry?
Does it mean what's going on in Kenya in terms of social media activism is going on in Malawi as well?
Yeah, it's very, very high on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, what you call the other one, TikTok, and so many channels on YouTube all of a sudden. And just sharing the news and spreading the news and yeah, so it's really causing the government problems.
That's same to what's going on in Kenya. I think they're either following up what's going on in Kenya because Kenya activity in social media has been very high. People have been putting the president in a coffin and the government. Yeah, people have been throwing a president in a coffin. And so many people have been drawn in source spaces and they're now planning to curtail freedom of social media. But people are saying they will not stop us. So that's also what's going on in Kenya. So it's almost similar to what's going on in Malawi.
Yeah, so people will be on social media doing live sessions. A number of people, including the two members I added to the group, they do live sessions. Some people are doing live sessions. Some people are just going behind different names and not showing their faces. If some information comes out, it just spreads like wildfire on all channels. So we don't rely on mainstream media anymore because the mainstream media is paid to publish whatever they publish. So it's often biased. So if it's coming from the opposition or from the government, depending on which channel you're on, you're just listening to some kind of propaganda. Whereas if you go to the YouTube channel, it's kind of live and real material that wouldn't come on the mainstream media.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that tablet. We'll keep on following on this and probably we'll have a session to discuss what's going on in. I know it has also started in Kenya. It started in Kenya. It's going on in Uganda. Tanzania is starting to take it, and also now Malawi is doing it.
Yeah, and also the interesting thing is especially the ones you doing live sessions and showing their faces and real names. One is not attacking, but campaigning about the corruption in the judiciary. So he would tell her, because he too is a lawyer and is in the system. So he talks about what actually goes on in the legal system, how the corruption works. He comes up with real names, saying so and so did this, so and so did that. They can challenge me if they want to. And then the Law Society doesn't do anything about it. What's the other one? The Human Rights Commission does nothing about it. The Anti-Social Corruption Bureau does nothing about it. The Ombudsman does nothing about it. So he's bringing out names. And so these organizations have started saying, oh, but we've been talking about this for the long time and blah, blah, blah. Yes, but where was the action against these people? So some action has started. Some threats have been issued against these people.
Okay.
And then we have another guy that's just come up, started, I think, 2 weeks ago. He then talks about the corruption in the civil service. Because he once worked for the civil service and understands how it works, the syndicates within it. And it's frightening, I tell you, it's so frightening. Because a lot of people, we just go, the president, the politician, the president, the politician, when the real work is within the people that are not elected. They have held the country into ransom. And when you hear the stories that they're coming out with, you just wonder how maybe we're going to turn it around, since people are now coming out and exposing the whole thing. And then we have the vice
sorry,
president.
the time. Sorry, can I come in? The time is now 6:15. We need to start the discussion on Agenda 2063. Sister Chisomo, I know you would like us to do updates like we used to. So we are in discussion, so we can bring that back, because I think you like that very much. So we can bring that back so that we hear updates from around Africa and from the diaspora. So I'd like to welcome you to today's meeting. I'd like to welcome, who is iPhone, by the way? I'd like to welcome iPhone, whoever iPhone is. Please, can you put your name, so we can see who you are? I'd like to welcome Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, are you in Nigeria? Because are you in the UK?
I'm in the UK.
I know you don't like to give away your location, so so welcome, Brother Pigeon.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brother Pigeon, welcome as well. You opened the meeting. So Brother Pigeon, I think you're already recording. Is that correct?
Yes, the recording is in progress.
Okay. So have you welcomed everyone? Not many people have joined, but we are still expecting more people.
Yeah, I'd welcome everyone who joined us by the time the recording was starting, but I equally join you to welcome other members who have joined us along the way.
Okay, all right. So there are 6 of us on the call right now. Hopefully, others will join us. Usually, there are more than this. I don't know if it's the topic, but a pigeon that has kind of deterred people.
There are too many meetings today.
All right.
At the same time.
Right. Ours, our meeting is our meeting. So anyway, welcome. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. And those who join us on the WhatsApp, those who join us on YouTube and listen to us later. We'd like to welcome you all as we gather here and, online, January 18th, 2025. So I extend a warm welcome to all of us here. And I'm chair of CSG, so I shouldn't really be saying it's a privilege to chair, but maybe it is. because we critically examine.
It's been privilege because sometimes you miss Jerry for sometimes.
Sorry?
Sometimes you find it more privilege because sometimes you do disappear and sometimes you become a listener. So you came back to Jerry.
I know. So anyway, we'll critically examine the African Union's Agenda 2063 through the lens of consensusism, which, as you know, is our philosophy, which is deeply rooted in the aspirations of our people and the vision of our founding fathers, particularly Kwame Nkrumah. Now, interestingly, Agenda 2063 represents not just a strategic framework for Africa's development, but it's also a clarion call for unity, self-reliance, and holistic progress. It embodies the dreams of our ancestors who envisioned a powerful, united Africa free from the shackles of neo-colonialism, on which, as you know, Nkrumah wrote his book, which is The Economics of Pan-Africanism, titled Neo-Colonialism, the Last Stage of Imperialism. So as we delve into today's discussions, and Brother Pigeon has shared some questions with us for guidance, let us remember that true development must reflect the voices and aspirations of all Africans, especially those who have been historically marginalized. And I think it's fair to say that the majority of Africans have been marginalized when it comes to wealth and the sharing of wealth on the continent. Only a small minority are controlling all the wealth on the soil of Africa. So if in our exploration of Agenda 2063 today, we will, this evening, this morning, this afternoon, we'll address several critical areas. One, the overview of Agenda 2063 itself. We will unpack its core principles and aspirations to understand how they align with our collective identity as Africans. We will link them to the Sustainable Development Goals, or we'll try to anyway, and examine how Agenda 2063 aligns with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, ensuring that our continental agenda resonates on a global scale. Then thirdly, we'll look at some key transformational outcomes of the agenda. Identifying the intended impacts on African societies is vital as we assess whether these outcomes genuinely improve our lives as Africans. We'll also look at the continental framework, looking at analyzing the structures and mechanisms for implementing this agenda. This will help us understand how effectively it can be realized. And then we'll look at the national and the development priorities. We must explore how national and regional priorities intersect with our continental agenda to create a cohesive approach to development. Then some flagship projects, a critical assessment of key projects, if we can, will allow us to gauge their feasibility and potential impact on our communities. And then the first 10-year implementation plan. Can we really review the progress thus far? And will that help us identify areas for improvement and ensure accountability on our efforts? And then finally, aspirations and key documents. Finally, we will explore the foundational documents that underpin Agenda 2063 to appreciate their role in guiding our path forward. So Brother Pigeon has prepared a kind of overview for us. We'll use that as a guide. So as we engage in this dialogue, I urge all of you, welcome Amapoku. It's good to see you again. Welcome Brother King. Welcome Sister Tapua. So as we engage in this dialogue, I urge all of you to consider the radical questions that challenge us. Yeah? Does Agenda 2063 truly reflect the aspirations of the African people? Does it? How can we ensure that its benefits reach all Africans? Is our current implementation strategy effective? Welcome, Brother Gonza. Is it effective? How can we prevent this agenda from becoming another empty promise? How does it align with Nkrumah's vision for a united Africa? And importantly, why have we set our sights on 2063? So let us approach these questions with an open mind and a critical spirit, recognizing that our discussions today are not just theoretical, but have real implications for the future of our continent. So in welcoming you all, let us remember that Constantism calls us to reclaim our identity as Africans and assert our agency in shaping Africa's destiny. Together, we can ensure that Agenda 2063 is not merely a document, but a living commitment to the progress and empowerment of all Africans. So thank you for being here today. Let us move forward with purpose and determination. Forward ever, backwards never. So, Brother Pigeon,
thank you.
You are on the website, I believe, of the AU. So you take us through.
Thank you.
Let me once again welcome Dr. Jones, who is Labs Nigeria, Brother Samuel, Sister Chizomo, Brother The King Mauli, Sister Amapoku, Sister Tapua, and Brother Gonza of ACUP. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you once again, Brother Kwame, and thank you all, comrades who have joined us now. And it's a pleasure and an honor actually to present this Agenda 2063 to the Pan-Africans grouping. We as CSG actually look at Agenda 23 because our central focus is the unification of Africa. And the unification then stems to other things. We also look at liberation and development of Africa. Agenda 2063, we want to critically examine it, whether it aligns with, as Brother Kwame has said, the Nkrumah vision for a totally united, totally liberated, and totally developed Africa. And so I'll go through this. Of course, Brother Kwame has shared some of the questions that are guiding questions to this. I decided to use the website of AU. This is the AU website because it's actually put the Agenda 23 in various subtitles that have been mentioned by Brother Kwame very clearly. I will not go word by word, but I will paraphrase some of the key issues. Then will lead us to an informative session. So part of my presentation will be actually to share what Agenda 2063 it is as it is. Then now we can actually open up the session for critical examination, question, and then answers. I believe I should not be taking more than 30 minutes, Brother Kwame, for me to go through this. And this is a link that's available for other people or anybody else to review later. We're doing this because some of us might have not even been exposed to this content. But this is the first time we are trying to understand, or some of us have heard of it but not clearly gone deep to analyze it. So Agenda 2063 is actually is to be African blueprint, or is the African blueprint and a master plan for transforming Africa into a global powerhouse of the future. So they sat down in 2013, actually, as an affirmation of their commitment to support Africa's new path for attaining inclusive, sustainable economic growth and development. African heads of state and government signed the 50th anniversary solemn declaration during the Golden Jubilee celebration of the formation of AU/OAU in 2013 May. So after 50 years of OAU, the Africans had sat down to think of the next 50 years of Africa. So what do you want for Africa in the next 50 years, having attained the last 50 years? And then now they came up with the blueprint of what the 50 years they want to achieve in the next 50 years. We can go extra mile to criticize or analyze what had been achieved in the last 50 years, but here is a focus for the next 50 years. And the key issue is what led to the Agenda 2063 that was made in May 2013. Now, if you do your calculations, you realize that from May 2013 to actually, if you do your calculation, you realize that from May 2013 to actually 2063 is an exactly 50 years. So they came up with what they call the declaration, actually marked the rededication. The keyword used is rededication of Africans towards the attainment of Pan-African vision, of an integrated. Probably they tend to use integrated instead of united. I don't know whether they found it radical. Prosperous and peaceful Africa. driven by its own citizens, representing a dynamic force in the international arena. So this is basically the envision overview of Agenda 2063. So the need to envision a long-term 50-year plan for Africa is very important, as Africa needs to revise and adapt its development agenda due to ongoing structural transformation. Therefore, Agenda 2063 encapsulates not only Africa's aspiration for the future, but also identifies key flagship programs which can boost the Africa economic growth and development and lead to rapid transformation of the continent. Therefore, Agenda 2063 also identified key projects that are to be undertaken in 10 years. That's what you say, we're looking for the first 10 years process, what has been done, and which was to ensure Agenda 2063 delivered both quantitative and qualitative transformation outcome for the African people. So basically, that's the overview of where we come with Agenda 2063. Now, there are key, what we call key agenda linking by Agenda 2063, which I'll only mention briefly as part of the linkage of Agenda 2063 with the strategic sustainable development goals. I remember President Yoweri Museveni said that there's nothing like sustainable. He has never seen a sustainable pregnancy, and he knows that pregnancy must be delivered after 9 months. So calling it sustainable is when should it be delivered. But key issues of Agenda 2063 in terms of their goals include goal number 1, a high standard of living, quality of life, and well-being for all citizens. Now, Agenda 2063 prioritizes areas in that line like income, jobs, decent work, poverty, inequality, hunger, social security, protection, and persons with disability, and modern or affordable living habitats. There's also issues to do with well-educated citizens and skilled revolution, which then focus in Agenda 2063 issues to do with education, science and technology, and innovation as well. There are goals on health and well-nourished citizens. We then focus on issues of health and nutrition, the sustainable and inclusive economic growth, this STI-driven manufacturing, industrialization, and value addition and a transformed economy. There's economic diversification and resilience of the economy. There's modern agriculture for increased productivity and production. So we have issues to do with agricultural productivity and production being mentioned. We have issues with blue economy, so marine resources and energy is also part of this, and port operations as well. Another agenda that we have is actually environmentally sustainable and climate resilient economies. So here we will be looking issues of climate resilience. We have issues of natural disasters and preparedness. We have issues of water security, and we have another very important goal here on a unified Africa. They categorically say it's either federal or confederate on a unified Africa. So the goal is to work on a framework and institutions for a united Africa. They have issues with continental financial and monetary institutions established. So there's issues of financial and monetary institutions as well. World-class infrastructures, issues to do with communication and infrastructure. There's issues of democratic values, democracy and good governance, human rights and rule of law. There's also issues of institutional and leadership capacity and development of local governance. There's issues to do with peace, very important, peace, security and stability. So that's also very important, and also a stable and a peaceful Africa, defense and security issues. So these are some of the few issues that are being mentioned here. There's issues to do with African cultural renaissance in preeminent. So cultural values and African renaissance is very important here. Cultural heritage, creativity, arts and businesses, and full gender in all spheres is also part of the few. In amongst the 19 to 20 something, there are actually 20. Africa takes full responsibility for our financial development, which is very important, on sovereignty of our financial plan. So development assistance, private sectors, Africa is a major partner in global affairs, and engaging and empowering the youth. These are part of the key agenda, key goals that are linked to SDG in any form possible. But ours will be going to check on the goals and priorities. And this will link us to the aspiration of Agenda 2063, the goal put in place, and the priority areas to attain it. So the first aspiration is actually a prosperous Africa. based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Now, the goals that are to be taken, or the goals that are to be implemented in order to attain a prosperous Africa as per the aspiration number 1 of African Union, includes a high standard of living, quality of life, and well-being of citizens. There's also issue to do with well-educated citizens and skill revolution underpinned by science, technology, and innovation. Their key goal also is actually healthy and well-nourished citizens. These are part of the key goals they intend to achieve in order to achieve the aspiration of one of a prosperous Africa. They also look forward to transformed economies. And here you're talking about industrialization. I think we talked about industrialization last time, manufacturing. They're also talking about economic diversification, hospitality. There's modern agriculture for increased productivity and blue economy. These are still under the points of a prosperous Africa. There's issues of environmental sustainability. As I said them before, in their second aspiration is an integrated continent, politically united and based on the ideals of Pan-Africanism and the visions of African Renaissance. So here, the goal is to have a united Africa. And it's very clear they're not either decided whether it's be a federal or a confederate Africa. They also need to work on a framework and institutions for a united Africa. We'll check whether that has started taking place or not. The other goal here is to have a continental financial monetary institutions, which then calls for financial institutions to be in place. They're also looking for a world-class infrastructures crisscrossing Africa. So issues of communications and infrastructures connectivity is part of the goals and aspirations here. Democratic values, that deals with African good governance, where there's democracy, respect of human rights, and justice and the rule of law. So the issues here tackled include democratic values, practices, universal principles of human rights, justice, rule of law, and change. So democracy and good governance, human rights, and all those other issues are part of what they look for. We'll check and we can tell whether Africa is actually respecting human rights or democracy or good governance. We can tell that. There are also issues to do with capable institution and transformative leadership in place. They also look for peace and security and stability as part of aspiration number 4 on a peaceful and secured Africa. So there are projects and programs to deal with all those issues, and there are other issues as well that are attached here, which include actually a stable and peaceful Africa. We know where we are today. There's a commitment they made that we silence gun in 2022. In 2020, we'll check that. Africa is still not at peace, as you can tell. There's also a fully functional and operational, a stable and peaceful Africa, APSA. So issues to do with operational functional pillars in that. The issues of aspiration number 5 on Africa with a strong cultural identity, common heritage, values, and ethics. So issues here to do with the values and ideal of Pan-Africanism, cultural values of African Renaissance, cultural heritage and creativity, creative arts and businesses. Aspiration number 6 is on Africa's whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential offered by African people, especially its women and youth, and caring for children. So fully gender equality in all spheres, engaged and empowered youth and children, and Africa as a major partner in global peaceful coexistence. So here in actually, we look for things like women and girls empowerment, violence and discrimination, youth empowerment. But also there's aspiration number 7 that deals with, so there are only 7 aspirations, which deals with Africa as a strong, united, resilient, and influential global player, which include Africa being a major partner in global affairs, and Africa taking full responsibility for financing her development. Very important. So those are the 7 key aspirations. So once again, Africa as a strong, united, resilient, and influential global player, and Africa whose development is people-driven, and Africa with strong cultural identity, Africa peaceful and secure Africa, Africa of good governance, democracy, respect of human rights, an integrated, continental, politically united Africa, and we're looking at actually a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth. So these are the goals, priorities, and aspirations part of Agenda 2063. But there are key transformational outcomes as well that we have to be very cognizant of. And most of these, as you know, Agenda 2063 has identified key benefits of Africans in the program identified in the Strategic Development Framework. Africa is expected to show this improved standard of living, very important, transformed, inclusive and sustainable economies, increased level of regional and continental integration, a population of empowered women and youth, and a society in which children are cared for and protected, society that are peaceful, demonstrate good democratic values, and practice good governance principles, and which preserves and enhance Africans' cultural identity. So key areas in improving living standard, the issues of real per capita income will be a third more than 2013. That's what they look in terms of 2050 to have a 3 times income per capita, the incidence of anger, and they have the statistic to reduce incidence of anger. And they are saying amongst women and youth will only be 20% of 2023 levels. So the job opportunities, there are so many things that put there, malnutritions, and 9 out of 10 persons will have access to safe drinking water. This is their aspiration. 9 out of 10, probably one person, they are not concerned of the one person, but that's actually an aspiration that 9 out of 10 could have actually safe drinking water. They have sanitation, they have electricity supply, they have internet connectivity. I know there's issues of blackouting or power cut or rationing in South Africa, but they're looking forward to have electricity supply and internet connectivity will be up to 50%, and cities will be recycling at least 50% of their waste. They're also having very key issue here in transformed and inclusive and sustainable economies. They expect GDP will be growing at 7% at least, of a third of the output. They look forward to labor-intensive manufacturing. They are looking forward towards a creative art business, which will contribute us twice in the real terms in 2013. The ICT penetrations and contribution to GDP is an issue they're also working on. And they're talking that at least 17% of terrestrial and inland water and 10% of the coastal and marine areas will have been preserved, and 30% of farmers, fisher folks, and pastoralists will be practicing climate resilience productivity. In integrated Africa, which is of interest to us as well, is that there will be free movement of goods, services, and capital, and persons traveling to any member state could get the visa at the point of entry. So if you talk of free movement of the people, I'll still be asking myself, why again do we need to have visa? But that's the aspiration. The volume of intra-African trade, especially in agricultural values, added products, will increase 3 times by 2023. Now we are in 2025, we'll check on that. African custom unions, African common markets, and African monetary union will be operational by 2023. We'll also have to check on this, whether it's working, because it's past 2023. The African speed train network will have passed the inception stage and will be taking its first passengers between 2 connected cities. I don't know if this is aspiration by 2023 or 2050. They're also looking at African skies will be open to all African airlines. Regional power pools boosted by 50% increase in power generation, and African Education Accreditation Agency and common education system are in place, and African youth will be having the choice to study at any university. It's very interesting that in that integrated Africa, they have forgotten to talk about political unification, which is part of what they are talking about initially. They also talk of empowered women and youth, all issues of form of non-violence. African youth will be mobile, and 50% of all new businesses will emancipate from their ingenuity. Child labor, they're going to well-governance, peaceful and cultural-centric Africa. So they're talking about democratic values. They're saying at least 7 out of 10 persons in every member state of the union will preserve or will perceive elections to be free. Every member state of the Union will perceive elections to be free, fair, and credible. Democratic institution, process, and leaders are accountable, judiciary impartial and independent, and the legislature independent and key component of the national government. Those are a few things that I'm talking about in regards to well-governance. And all gun, this is very important, all gun will be silenced by 2023. That has really failed, and we all know about that, because guns have not been silenced. So there's also local content in all print and electronic media will have increased. They have issues of African. They are talking of African Space Agency will have been established by 2023. We'll check whether there's a space agency already established. They're talking of investment banks of Africa and Africa remittance institutes, and at least 2 regional stock exchange will have been established and functional. So these are a few things they're talking about in terms of their what they call key transformation outcomes. But they've also developed what they call continental frameworks, which I'll now mention very briefly as I go to the flagship agendas. So the continental frameworks, they've developed the almost 3 to 4 continental frameworks. One is the Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program, which is called CAADP. There's another, the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA. The African Mining Vision, AMV. Science Technology Innovation Strategy for Africa, STISHA. There's Boosting Inter-African Trade, BIAT. Then Accelerated Industrial Development for Africa, AIDA. So these are part of them. Our comprehensive CAP talks about agriculture and increasement of agriculture and budgets for agriculture, with key priority areas on sustainable land management, infrastructure, and trade. There's program on infrastructure, where they're looking at issues to do with the regional infrastructure be conducted and coordinated under AU and those other infrastructural programs. The mining, they're talking about knowledge-driven and contribute to the growth of the economy on mining. So the issues, many things they're touching in that area. There's issues on science and technology, eradicating anger, preventing of control and diseases. There's issues of communications as well. So these are key issues that have been summarized in a document that you can access here, which is also available. And there's also BAT now when you are talking about boosting intertrade. I think they're starting with the African Free Continental Trade Agreement. Key areas they are looking at is trade policy, trade facilitation, and productivity capacity. To mention a few, I'll go straight to the other aspect on the flagship projects. Of course, there are alignment of national development priorities, which have been aligned. So many countries have identified their development priorities, which include sustainable and inclusive economic growth, human capital development, agriculture, and value addition. And they are also having issues to do with the employment generation and social protection, gender, infrastructure, science, manufacturing, peace, and culture. The flagship agenda and flagship projects have been actually that have started. They have issues with integrated high-speed network. I don't know if it started. I know Brother Gonza is here. He was working on a project in regards to that on flagship and railway speed. They're also talking about formulation of African commodity strategy. They're thinking of issues of establishment of AFTC. I know these have been established. The African passport and free movement of people. I don't know if that has been established as well. The silencing of the gun. In fact, it was by 2020, not 2023. We know where that is. There's the implementation of Grand Inga Dam project. We can get update to those who are aware whether that has actually been established. There's an establishment of single African air transport and market. And there's an establishment of annual African Economic Forum. Brother Kwame will be interested in annual African Economic Forum. I don't know whether you've seen that has been established as well. And finally, they have issues of establishment of African financial institutions, Pan-African e-network, and Africa out-of-space strategy. There's also Africa Virtual and E-University, which I know Brother Larry will be interested in that as well. There's cyber security, which Brother Carrington probably will be speaking on that, and Great African Museum as well. And lastly is Encyclopedia Africana. So these are the key issues that they're looking at in terms of the projects. But let's check at the implementation. Only the documents, I'll only share the links of the document due to my time, but let's check at the implementation of the first financial year. So their purpose was to develop a 10-year plan that are to identify priority areas, bring fruition to the task force programs. With a document that I will share with you, is actually been attached on the flagship project programs recommendations. It's available on the site. I think I downloaded it. This is actually the document. Just mention it briefly. As a download, I'll be able to share it with you in English, but I'll also share the document. I have it, so I can share it on the chat to look at the progress report. It's a big document, but there are key project and progress report that they're mentioning in terms of tourism and everything else. So we'll have to look at this at a time if you can find time, critically analyze it. They are mentioning so many things here in terms of their progress report, which for now we may not delve deeper, but it's part of what you're looking at in terms of their implementation. Then the key documents that we'd like to share includes actually the aspiration we have touched about. So there are key documents that are available in so many areas. For example, they have the reports of the second report of the implementation. That's the 10-year report. They have issues to do the Made by Africa creative value through integration. There's Africa free trade rules of origin that we looked at last time. There's other annexes, and there's also many things including AFTCA reports by presidents of Republic of Nigeria, migration policies, key documents, and all these things have been touched together towards Africa Agenda 2063. Comrades, permit me to pause here. Actually, I can only pause because the content is big, but let me pause here and make this be the end of my submission for this time. Thank you for your time. Brother Kwame?
Yes, thank you very much, our dear brother Pigeon Odimengu. Thank you for your hard work, and thank you for taking us through the AU website. 50 years ago, who would have thought that you'll be able to share a live demonstration of what an international institution is doing? But we are where we are. Let me. So we're going to open the floor for discussions. Members are free to discuss whatever they want to discuss, which aspect they want to discuss. It's up to you. I just want to touch on three things. First is the history of how we got here. I must say that we in CSG, for those who don't know, CSG is a consensusism study group. And consensusism is the name for the philosophy and ideology of Pan-Africanism or progressive Pan-Africanism, based on a book written by Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who, as you know, was inspired by Azikiwe of Nigeria to go and study in the US. So let's look at the history. So we have the history of Pan-Africanism itself, which has been an ideological movement advocating for the unity and so the solidarity of African people. And it's interesting that the leaders or those who led this idea globally were not on the African soil, but they were actually in the United States of America and in the Caribbean. So W. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, and as we all know, Du Bois died in the arms of Nkrumah, and Garvey was the reason Nkrumah went to US to meet him, but he had been deported by the time Nkrumah got there because of Du Bois. You all know the history, a bit complex and murky there. Then we had the Pan-African Congresses, and they were held, first of all, in 1900. That's a long time ago now. 1999, 1921, and 1945. The 1945 one is the most notable because it was from there that the Bandas, the Nkrumahs, and so on left England to go and fight for the end of colonial rule and to gain independence. It wasn't to end there. It was then meant to then lead to the unification of the continent. So in 1958, the Congress, Pan-African Congresses moved to Africa. And it was held, the first one was held in 1958 in Accra, Ghana, led by the government of the Convention People's Party of the party, and led by the government of Nkrumah. This conference brought together leaders from various African nations to discuss strategies for achieving independence from colonial rule. It emphasized the need for unity among African nations to combat colonialism and racism, reinforcing the idea that collective action was necessary for liberation. From there, we moved to the formation of the OAU in 1963. Nkrumah wanted a continental government straight away, but there were forces working against that idea, whose time perhaps hadn't come at that time, because people say that Nkrumah was far ahead of everyone. We'll all recall that it was Nyerere who said it took him 10 years to understand what Nkrumah was talking about. So you can understand that when they met in 1963, the Nyereres and so on, the OAU, they had no clue what Nkrumah was talking about. They didn't understand what Nkrumah was saying. And so you can imagine how that would have meant that Africa could not unite at that time, because the guys didn't understand, what this was all about. Then we went to the Sete Declaration 1999, and this called for the establishment of an African Union to accelerate integration on the continent. We all know how that ended up, with the murder of Gaddafi and the helped by our own, in some cases, African leaders, called the Mad Dog and all sorts of unpalatable names. Then you will recall that in 2001, NEPAD was launched. NEPAD stood for the new Partnership for Africa Development. That was launched, and the idea was to address Africa's socioeconomic challenges through integrated development initiatives. As you all know, Africa is a balkanized continent. We have 55 separate economies. The African people want to trade. They move across borders and so on. But then at the top there, we have a neo-colonial structure being weighed down on our people. NEPAD sought to promote good governance, economic growth, and sustainable development. I don't know whether some of us here remember those flashy documents NEPAD produced. I don't think it led to anything. It didn't lead to anything. Then in 2002, we had the African Union, which was established as a successor to the AU, with a broader mandate that included not only political unity, but also economic integration and social development. So we can say that the AU, notionally anyway, contemplates the idea of political unity, even if the leaders today are not talking about it, because they are too busy with how to steal resources today. So even if they are not talking about it, it will evolve. We have seen how the AES, the Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, and so on, with the coming into office of younger, impatient, fed up with the former colonial powers like France, holding back the aspiration of the African people. We've seen that it has led to new conversations. And when Traore was in Ghana recently for the inauguration of President Mahama, he got the loudest cheer. Even Kagame didn't get that kind of cheer. Despite the fact that, as we know, Kagame has done a lot for Rwanda. But even Kagame didn't get that kind of cheer that this young man got. It's not to say that Africans want military governments across the continent. It is just the fact that the civilians have shown themselves to be completely useless. They don't do anything for us. They come to office, all they do is steal money, steal resources, think about themselves, their families, and their tribe, and so on. They don't really care as the people. I speak as a Ghanaian living in the UK. No government has ever come to office and really thought about me as a Ghanaian living outside. They don't care about us. Even the fact that we don't even vote. We don't vote. The law has been passed that we should vote. They all sit there. They don't care about us. They don't do anything. Both political parties in Ghana, all of them don't care about us. They don't do anything for us. All they are interested in is the fact that we send money to support our family. And that's all they care about. Even when we go to Ghana, they call us foreigners. They don't even see us as Africans, It can be very painful the way we are treated. We are Africans, and yet they see us as foreigners. So anyway, so that's the history of the African Union and where we've come from. Now, in terms of the flagship project, yes, they've been established. The African Continental Free Trade Area has been established. African Passport and Free Movement of People has been established, but it hasn't been implemented the way it should be, but it's been established. The Grand Inga Dam has been established. The single African air transport market has been established. The African Virtual University has been established. The Pan-African e-network established. African outer space strategy established. So these things have been established, but have they achieved their full potential? The answer is no. So they've been established, but their full achievements and impacts vary across different initiatives. And so, for instance, if you look at the established projects, the African Continental Free Trade Area, is expected to significantly reduce tariffs and increase trade amongst member states. So it's still ongoing. The passport issue
Brother Kwame, have we lost you? Hello, Brother Kwame? Okay. It seems we've lost Brother Kwame. Can somebody hear Brother Kwame?
No, I can't hear him.
Okay. I think okay, we've lost him. So I think as he prepared to come back, Brother Elder Glenn, your hand is up. Please just proceed. I'll allow him to continue as he gets back.
Okay, there were two questions I wanted to ask him, so I'll save them.
Sorry.
I'll save. He's back.
Sorry.
Oh, Brother Kwame is back. Brother Kwame, just to let you know, we lost you, Brother Kwame.
Sorry?
We lost you when you're talking about African passport, and Brother Glory said he wanted to ask you a question.
Yes, okay, that's fine. I'm just going through the list, and then we can have a discussion. The single African air transport market is not there yet.
Brother Kwame, we are losing you again. Just to let you know,
So,
Brother Kwame,
but they haven't been achieved the way we like. Yes.
you are on and off. But sometimes you disappear a bit and you come back again. So just work on that. We are losing you maybe for seconds, then you're back.
Can you see me? Can you hear me now? Can you see me now?
Yeah, we can hear and can see. Just that you're losing you for some few seconds, then you come back.
I'm afraid you know that I'm being hacked. They don't like the fact that I'm doing this. So
okay, yeah,
there's not much I can do. I'll just do what I can. So,
yes.
So in terms of the flagship projects, they've been established, but we haven't got to where we would like it to be. The final point I would like to make is that there have been key achievements. There have been some improved living standards. Education and health has become better. Malnutrition is less. There is infrastructure development. Some has happened. In terms of empowerment of women and youth, hopefully, we are not there yet. Ghana just elected its first vice president, who is a woman. Regional integration is still ongoing. When just governance and peace, as Brother Pigeon said, the guns are not silent yet. But there's still more to do. But we've got something has been achieved there. Cultural identity efforts have been made to promote African culture and values, fostering a sense of shared identity among the diverse populations of the continent. We're not there yet, but something has been done there. And then response to challenges. Now, the final thing I would say is that I think that we Pan-Africanists who trace our roots all the way to 1900 and the work of the Pan-African fathers and mothers, I think we would say that yes, the AU is not it's not where we would like it to be, but it's the best thing we've got right now. So let us work in order to support it so that it can get to where we want. So to summarize, I think that Nkrumah will not be completely happy, but at least he'll be happy that the OAU has moved now closer to what he wanted, which was political unification. And our Saturday discussions are about having a conversation around our unification. So that is it. The time now is 7:01 GMT. Is the anthem ready, Brother Pigeon? Is the African anthem ready? So we'll open
No,
the
Brother Kwame,
discussion.
I can work on it as you, Brother Glory maybe may go ahead to ask his question as I look for the anthem.
Yeah, that's fine. Brother Glenroy, you can start our discussions for us. Thank you.
Yes, greetings, comrade. I'm on battery power at the moment, so it might run out any moment now. I didn't join at the beginning, so I hope the things I'm going to raise was not covered. But just a few questions on what you've just said. And I think you've said the air transport, Africa air transport system has not been finalized, has not been done, because I always take Ethiopian airline whenever I come home. And they are members of what they call a Star Alliance, which I think I can't remember the other airlines involved, but certainly they're not all African airline. But that's probably something completely different than the 2026 agenda. I thought you said that Kwame went to meet Marcus Garvey in the US, but by then he had been deported, which is correct. But you then, I think, go on to say that this was because of Du Bois. I don't know if I misheard that. I mean, it is what actually happened
Well,
because of his role. So yeah, if I can land the
brother Glenroy, I'm happy for you to correct the history. If you think that is not correct, that is my understanding. That Du Bois was one of those behind Garvey's deportation.
Yeah, I think you're right, but it hasn't been publicly known for some time, because certainly when you go to Ghana and you see that the Du Bois Center is next to the Garvey Center in the in Ghana, it's in Accra. It's quite an interesting thing that they brought the two of them together. In any case, I digress. The other thing is that
can I make a quick comment on that? So, so I know you say it's not public knowledge, but because of my interest in Garveyism and the Garveyite influence on Nkrumah, and the fact that Garvey was going to establish a new city in Sierra Leone at the time, and we also heard that was sabotaged by Du Bois, and that whole project came to a standstill. All the investment was lost because of Du Bois, and Nkrumah has always said in the Conakry letters, and the Conakry has always said that if Du Bois and Garvey had combined their forces, much more would have achieved, instead of Du Bois fighting Garvey. And but as you know, he let bygones be bygones. But when he was in the US, he never met Du Bois, even though he could have, because he was so upset with what Du Bois did to Garvey.
Yeah, I'm not questioning what you're saying. I'm just saying that I don't think it's talked about much, but you can there's I'm not questioning it. I think there's really a lot of relevant to it, and the behavior of Du Bois. But let me get to the other question, which was that well, let me leave that one. Let me go to what I wanted to say, because my battery is rather dodgy. Was there any discussion around the issue of the diaspora in the AU project? I'm not sure I agree with you that Kwame Asajafo would necessarily be happy with the progress of the African Union, not least of all changing it from the Organization of African Unity, which has, for me, a very specific resonance to that. But the issue of the passport, which you've said about if that's taken off or not. And they keep putting things in the media that it had, or at least on social media, that Ghana has started it. And as you know, Kenya was, one of its ministers was famously talking about it, how they would get rid of it. And obviously, Kenya hasn't done that. But if the issue of the sixth region and the role of Africans outside of Africa, we will continue to have that situation, as you say, about when Africans come home, they're being called foreigners. And obviously that's role of education and civil society. But clearly, there isn't any work being done, as I see it. We're in a fight in regard to the sixth region, even though it was an aspiration that has been around for quite some time. So I just wondered if there was any discussion, and as I said, I joined late, or any part of the 2063 project that has reference to political involvement of the sixth region. What you talk about not voting in the sixth region, you would have that opportunity to vote. So are they addressing that? I'm sorry about that. There was another question, but I'm going to forego that for the time being. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll put that question back to all of us. So anyone who has who can contribute an answer to that, feel free. Last year, when the Kwame Nkrumah Ajoloka Institute held its annual meeting in September, we had a gentleman from Uganda, I believe, at the time, who had extensive knowledge about what had happened, and he told us that the protocol for one passport has already been adopted. The problem is that it hasn't been implemented in the same way as, for instance, ECOWAS has in its documentation adopted. When you fly, you have an ECOWAS passport. So when you fly, you can go to any African country. That's but when you fly. If you try using the road, it's a problem. So the protocol has been passed, but on the ground, it has not been implemented. So Brother Glora, that's what I know. As far as I know, the protocol has been adopted, but the implementation is the problem, and that hasn't been done. And some of us are saying that the AU needs to be given executive powers. The presidents need to see some of their powers to a continental organization that have executive function. That has power to take decisions. In other words, the African countries must cede some policy areas to a federal, if it's not a federal, a continental organization. So, but for me, what is important is that at least we have something going for us in terms of the political unification of Africa. We have something going for us. We don't have to start from scratch. A lot has happened since 1900. It's been slow, but slowly we are getting there, and the dream will be achieved. I mean, one day, I think, maybe not in our lifetime, but our children's lifetime or children's lifetime, Africa will be united. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question, brother, but feel free to come back. Thank you. And please, if anybody else has anything to contribute, the floor is now open.
Brother Kwame.
Pigeon hasn't come back to me whether he has the anthem ready or not.
Brother Kwame.
Yes, he has a hand up. But let's hear the anthem first, please, before, if you don't mind, before we go on with the discussion. I know Sister Ada doesn't like the anthem. She thinks it's like a dirge, Is the anthem ready, Brother Pigeon?
Yes, the anthem is ready, Brother Kwame.
No, don't worry. I will play it. Yeah.
But you can play it. You can play it. You can play it as I
Yeah, I
try
want this.
to.
Yeah, I'm looking for the Swahili version. Because we've been the
Okay.
English version for a while. So
Okay,
there we go. Give me a moment. So, Saida, as soon as the anthem is done, then you can please come in and share your. So we'll have a discussion. So I'm just getting to the African anthem now. Yes, this is the Swahili version. I hope you can all hear it. Thank you. So that is our lovely African anthem. Loved by some, hated by others. Yes, Brother Pigeon.
I wanted to respond on the question Brother Gloria is asking in regards to diaspora.
Yes. Hold, pause. Maybe Sister Ida wanted to say something first about that. Sister Ida. And then you can come in after Sister Ida. Unmute yourself,
Hi,
please.
I did want to say something, but I'm just getting on the bus, so I don't know I can. So I'll come back to you. Thank you. Okay, it was about following up from what Brother Glenroy was saying. So, thank you.
I thought so. That's all right. Let us know when you are able to. So I'll put your hand down for now. So when I see it again, I know that is you. That is your new hand coming up. Right. So yes, Brother Pigeon, please proceed. But before you do, let me welcome more of our sisters and brothers who have joined us. So, Sister Shaza, welcome. Yeah, Sister Ida, yourself, welcome, Sister Ida, welcome, Sister Shaza, and then welcome, Brother Kweku. You had an interesting election recently in Ghana. Brother Ndlovu, South Africa, welcome. Brother Windhoek, Namibia, welcome. And Brother Raspala, South Africa,
very
welcome.
Much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, he has not joined. He's still trying to join. Thank you, Brother Kweku. Yeah. So, yeah, welcome those of you who joined us. Brother Carrington, welcome. I don't think I've welcomed you yet. So, welcome, brothers and sisters. Yes, Brother Pigeon, please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Brother Gloria, I know you joined when I done the presentation a bit. I have gone through various documents that have been listed by AU in regards to their various concepts, but they haven't actually been clear on the African diaspora. They talk of the integration of Africa, but they view African integration in terms of Africa as a continent. So I haven't come across where the document explicitly talk about diaspora, from the overview of Agenda 2063 to the flagship projects to the reports. And therefore, I don't know if there might be recent commitments in that line, but it's unfortunately silently not mentioned in the documents of Agenda 2063, right from priority to anything else. What they talk about is they talk about integrated, continental, politically united. And no, when they talk of that unification, they view Africa in terms of the African continent and not in terms of Africans outside the continent. I know there have been reports that they said, of course, they accepted the sixth region, but I don't know if it features anywhere in their plan, but it's not in part of what I've talked about explicitly. Maybe it's coming outside, but not there explicitly. Thank you.
Yeah, brother Pigeon. So in looking at the documentation, as you've looked at it, can I make these comments and see if they are in line with what you've read? First of all, the AU does have a definition for the African diaspora, as I understand it. It defines the African diaspora as people of African origin living outside the continent, irrespective of their citizenship and nationality, who are willing to contribute to the development of the continent and the building of the African Union. So this is the diaspora division of the African Union. There is, I understand, a diaspora division. Are you aware of that, Brother Pigeon? Brother Pigeon, yeah.
You might, yes, but not in the Agenda 2063. So it's something else, because I've read Agenda 2063 from start to the end.
Right.
It might be just, I think it should be, because it's not, it's a project they're having as AU, but they needed to feature it in Agenda 2060 so that it have some proper efforts towards achievement and follow up on that execution. But they exclusively actually missed it in the Agenda 2063 in all facts or all parts of the Agenda 2063. It's not there.
Okay, so it's not in the Agenda 2063, but it's part of the AU's framework. It has a diaspora division, and it has a defined sixth region. So the AU has designated the diaspora as the sixth region of Africa, acknowledging its potential contributions to economic, social, and political development on the continent. Now, in terms of engagement and participation, the AU established the diaspora division to serve as a focal point for implementing policies that encourage diaspora participation in Africa's development. And the division aims to facilitate communication and collaboration between the AU and diaspora organizations. In terms of policy framework, the AU encourages member states to develop diaspora engagement policies that facilitate participation in democratic processes, economic contributions, and cultural exchanges. And this includes issues like dual citizenship. And this explains why Akufo-Addo of Ghana, before he left office on the 7th of January, as I understand it, signed it into law that anyone who is of the African diaspora can come to Ghana without a visa. Now, interesting, Akufo-Addo himself originally was an Nkrumahist. His father belonged to the opposition to Nkrumah at the time. And so he became a president on the ticket of what you would call the opposition to Nkrumah. But then because he's Pan-Africanist at heart, that's why he did this. Interestingly, the government of John Mahama, even though they would claim that they are socialists, you don't hear much about Pan-Africanism from them. In the last election, I don't recall Mahama saying anything about Agenda 2063 or Pan-Africanism, any such thing. The NDC, I think, when it comes to Pan-Africanism, I'm sorry, there's not much from them. So in terms of policy framework, I don't know. I don't think we'll get much from this government, really. I'm talking about Ghana specifically. Now, in terms of engagement and participation, there's also the Global African Diaspora Summit. This, I think, was held in 2012. So the AU did hold a Global African Diaspora Summit. Maybe there's a need, Brother Glenroy, maybe there's a need for a new summit. And as you're in those parts, maybe you can draw their attention to it so that we have another summit. 2012 is a long time ago. And so this was even before the AU itself. This was before 2015, basically. Yeah, 2015. Now, in terms of economic contributions, the AU recognizes that we in the diaspora have significant spending power, estimated at around 500 billion annually. So we have a lot to contribute to Africa. In terms of legacy projects, we have skills. There's an African Diaspora Skills Base. There's a volunteer corps, the African Diaspora Investment Fund, African Diaspora Marketplace, African Institute for Remittances. So these things presumably are all there. We don't hear about them, but these things presumably are all there. Now, in terms of challenges and opportunities, of course, there are bureaucratic hurdles, okay, and also political participation. And so to conclude, the African Union and Agenda 2063 together, Brother Pigeon, your point taken. So the Agenda 2063, together with the African Union, emphasize a critical role of Africans abroad in contributing to the continent's development. Through various initiatives aimed at engaging diaspora economically, politically, and socially, the AU seeks to harness this potential while addressing existing challenges to ensure meaningful participation. So this engagement is seen as essential for achieving the broader goals of unity, integration, and sustainable development across Africa. The final point I want to make is this. If you take Ghana, for instance, the law is already there. There's a law that says that me sitting here in England, I can vote. The problem is that the Electoral Commission of Ghana, in connivance with the political parties, the main ones, NDC, NPP, have simply not bothered to implement the law. And that is the problem with a lot of policy decisions. They've been passed, but they are not being implemented. So implementation is a problem. So I think that in this meeting, we should also talk a bit about implementation. Finally, I am from Ghana. Yes, I was born in Ghana. Yes, I hold a Ghana passport, even though I live in England. I don't hold a British passport. I hold a Ghanaian passport. Or do I live here? Yeah. But when I go to Ghana, I am seen as a foreigner. Yes, believe it. Ghanaians see me in my own fatherland, in my own motherland. I'm seen as a foreigner. And so if I am seen as a foreigner, even though my name is African, I don't even have a European name, yeah, and yet I'm seen as a foreigner. So can you imagine how they see others? Yeah, the daughter of Nkrumah, Samia Nkrumah, at some point when politics became politics, was being referred to as a foreigner. So it's a problem on the continent. I'm sure Sister Chizomo will say the same, because she, going to Malawi from England, I'm sure she will have the same experience where she's seen as a foreigner. So it's a problem for Africa that they see us as foreigners, and that's something that we need to be dealt with. It's a cultural issue, it's a communication issue, but it's something that will need to be dealt with. Because I am not a white man. I'm sorry. So calling me Obruni is not really helpful. And I find it offensive that I'm being referred to as a white man, because I'm not a white man. And nor are we white men, even though we are as black as the Sudanese and so on and so forth. So 726, the AU, African Union and Agenda 2063. Let's hear from all of you, please. We have a lot of people in the meeting. Please share with us your thoughts on Agenda 2063.
Yes, about the Obruni thing. I think yes. I realize that it's once your accent is different, they see you to be Obruni automatically. That is how
that is offensive, Brother the King, Mauli. You guys have to stop that. We are not foreigners. We are Ghanaians. We hold Ghanaian passports. The fact that we speak with different accents doesn't make us white men or white women. So please tell Ghanaians to stop that.
We will do that.
So if me, who has an African name, you are calling me a white man, what about our brother here, our brother Glenroy, whose name, is not African in the same way? Our brother Glenroy, I hope you don't mind me saying this. So he is Glenroy Watson. So if I am a foreigner, what about him?
I wonder.
So Kwame, can I make a very brief? Can I make a very brief interjection? Very brief.
Yes, please. Brother Quick is here.
Very brief regarding this question of treatment of people who come from the outside and treating them as if they are foreigners. I'll give you a personal example. I was working in the mines. I went there as a salesman, and there was a lady selling food to the miners. So I was hungry and so decided to buy as well. Now, what I realized was that the plates from which they were eating was not being washed. If I ate, the plate would not be washed and then it will be handed to you to also be served your food. So I insisted that the plate I was going to use be properly cleaned and rinsed. Now, the woman immediately called me Brony. So it had nothing to do with the fact that I was out. It was because I was in my mindset. She found that to be different, and therefore called me Brony. If I should translate that, it should mean that actually my white person.
My white man, yes.
Yes. So it's not. She probably was being sarcastic. But it tells you your mentality. It's more to do with the mindset of the people who are coming. You are coming in espousing different ideas which they are not used to, and therefore they think that you are coming from outer space. And so the Brony is used there as a connotation for somebody whose mindset is different. And this I experienced in Takwa. That is a traditional Ghanaian town. And I was there as a Ghanaian worker, but she called me Brony. I think that we need to look at this concept of Brony a little bit more deeply than it's not just derogatory or something, but it tells you the way they see the world in terms of the ideas and things like that. It's quite more complex.
Brother Kweku.
Yes.
Isn't it fair to also say that everything beautiful and wonderful and nice and powerful is associated with Brony?
Yes, but that is the history.
And that when she called me Brony, she was basically expressing the fact that you are talking about something nice, something that should have been done, something that is beautiful.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That I suspect she was being sarcastic because I was being different. So I suspect she was being sarcastic. But now let me link this to
Agenda 2063.
Yes, let me link it to that. You see, because what is happening is this. I read the AU document on the AU University some time back.
The virtual university, you mean?
They set up these universities. I don't think it's virtual. There are about 5 or 6 universities that have been set up. That's linked to other established universities. Okay. But the AU University, I think it should be in the document somewhere. Now, in terms of their reportage, they actually stated that these are very high level, some of scientific institutions as well, some of them very high level. But what they found out was that the products of these universities, immediately they came out, moved to the Western countries. So Africa did not benefit from them. Now, the issue there, which I want to raise, is the socialization of the African youth. Now, we are giving them technical knowledge, making them advanced. But in terms of linking everything to the development of Africa, and in terms of Africa's own aspirations, there's no link. So they've been given the knowledge, but nobody is talking to them about their own history. Nobody's talking to them about the relevance of the fact that if Africa is strong, then they are stronger. All those things are missing in the AU document. They talk maybe 1 or 2 lines, but in terms of actual execution, you see that with the AU University, that is totally missing. Even with the faculty, you see that there's no diaspora person. They don't make special allowance for the inclusion of diaspora people. This was quite shocking for me. If they really want to highlight integration, they want to highlight unity and stuff like that. These are all missing. So they are not tackling the mindset of the people, like the woman who was selling the food. This is a very old mindset. We need to reprogram our youth. We need to reprogram our people. It's a huge job. If we are going to stop importing foreign food, it takes a change in preferences, a change in tastes.
Brother Kweku, I agree with you. We are not hearing from the AU in terms of its cultural programs and what it intends to do to tackle these things. Thank you very much for your contribution. Let's hear from Sister Ama Poku.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can indeed.
Good evening to everybody, or maybe afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. Brother Kweku, thank you for your contribution, because I think what you've highlighted is that sometimes we also need to look at our own behavior and attitudes. And by the way, I mean, those of us in this group and those of us like us in this group, because I'm African Ghanaian heritage, born here. I've been called a number of things when I go back home, but I've also been embraced and nurtured and recognized that I have something to gain and learn from ordinary folk, people at the grassroots when I go back home. I think sometimes some of us can go in with a holier than thou superiority complex, which is why some of our folks back home call us foreigners. It's the way we interact with and relate to some of them. And everything we say and we do and we look at, including this agenda, has to be focused on making things better for people. I'll finish by saying this. Kwame Ture said that one of the biggest issues with Africans across the world, both on the continent and the diaspora, are some of us who are of a particular class mentality, called the petty bourgeoisie, who look down on and exploit the ordinary everyday African, I'll use that term. So that is part of the challenge for us. We go into assist, but we have an awful lot that we learn and we can gain from our ordinary, everyday African men, women, youth, and children. And everything we do needs to be grounded in making things better for them, not for a particular class of people, not for those of us who want to parachute ourselves in, but for those people who are working in the farms, in the schools, in the ordinary people, in the mines, as you've mentioned. So let us focus on that, and let us sometimes query and question our attitude and the way we relate to people when we go back home. I finished.
Yeah, Sister, it's good to hear your voice again. And it's good to it's good to
Is that all you've got to say? It's good to hear my voice again.
It's good to hear from you.
Would you have said that if I were?
It's good to hear from you, Stama, and thank you. You didn't wait for me to finish. My sister, it's good to hear from you. I haven't seen you for a while, but it's good to hear your voice again. Thank you for your contribution, reinforcing what Brother Kweku has said there. That's something we need to work on as for the cultural and the cultural aspect. I think is key, and that's something I think you've also drawn attention to. We have a brother from Nigeria who has been looking at a kind of cultural festival for us, and that's something that perhaps we need to look at. And so I'm hoping that he will come back to us with some kind of plan. One was held in Nigeria, as I understand, many years ago, but we need a cultural festival. Let's hear from. So we try to hear from in terms of gender balance or sex balance. Hear from a voice or from the male side and from the female side, or from a man and a woman, and so on. So let's hear from a brother this time, and then we'll go to a sister after that. So Brother Ndlovu, can you speak? And then we hear from Sister Pua after that, and then General after that. Yeah, Brother Ndlovu.
Greetings, royalties. Hopefully the sound is coming through.
It is, and it's good to have you with us again.
Yes, we are back in action. It's 2025, so we took a break a bit. You know, some of us are fathers and we are husbands, so we have to do the duties in between. Yeah, yes. So nevertheless, we are back in action.
Sorry, some of us are also mothers. Don't forget there are women in the group as well.
I think he was speaking for himself.
Yeah. Yes, not true. But anyway, with regard to the agenda 2063 as presented, you know.
Yes, how does South Africa see it, brother? How are you guys seeing it from South Africa?
Yes, so I've shared a document there, a picture of how they are put together between the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and how they relate to Agenda 2063 of African Union. So I think it summarizes all of them. But I happen to be in one of the workshops arranged by University of Stellenbosch. Our former public prosecutor was the project manager of this. They brought in a couple of ambassadors all over the place and some government departments. They talked about Sustainable Development Goal number 2. The intent was that if you look at it, is zero hunger by 2030. That's the goal and that's the target they had set. And the report they said there was, the 70% of the goals that they had set and the targets are not going to be met. That's the narrative. So now, for me, where we're at, you have to go back. I'm maybe more interested in not the Agenda 2063 goals because, it's 40 years from now. So the administration that is here, because of the agenda, because of this kind of system of politics, the administration has 5 years in office. This chopping and changing, it's not effective even in ANC administration. They've had 7 administrations since, for the last 3 decades. Part of the thing that frustrates implementation is that you are changing administration every 5-year cycle. And every time you change administration, you get new people in, you appoint new ministers, then they start doing something, because they want to build their own legacy. So they don't want to continue where the last previous administration left off. It's as though now you demolish all of what was done, you build your own name, you start wanting to, for instance, here they like building new things, you want to build new stadium, you want to build new schools, but nobody wants to maintain the infrastructure that was built in the previous administration. So now
there's no money in maintaining things. There's money in building
that's it. The issue here is everybody wants to shine because you're figuring I'm here in this office for 5 years, So let me make it count. Actually, 5 years is such a small window for any administration to do things that are significant, that are sustainable, that are long term. So no administration will come in and make a 10-year plan. They want a 5-year plan, hit and run. And while they're at it, they want to loot as much as they can because they're going to only, have this job for 5 years. Now, that mentality is the single biggest thing that has hit all political parties, ANC not exempted. African Union will be subjected to the same thing because they keep changing and changing administrations. So then the important question for me is this agenda is not new. I mean, this thing was agreed 1963. I am interested in asking the question.
So, brother, so what point?
Yeah, where are we? Where are we with the implementation of the 1963 objectives? Because then you now don't have the excuse of saying Agenda 2063. We're still looking ahead. No, but the reality.
Hold on. Did you miss the presentation earlier? Because Brother Pigeon went through it with us, and I also then chipped in. They now have a new implementation plan. So they had an implementation plan for 10 years that finished in 2023. So from 2024 for the next 10 years, they have a new implementation plan. They have achieved some things. They haven't achieved everything, but they have achieved some things. You are speaking as though they've done nothing or that they haven't achieved much. But we agree they haven't achieved everything, but they have achieved something, brother.
No, the simple goal, why I started with, we've just held a conference here in Cape Town. They told us exactly that 70%, all the representatives, all of them were there. The rep from AU, the rep from United Nations, the ambassadors from various nations, including France, Germany, including all of the first world countries and Brazil and them, and some professors from all the world, from London to wherever. They were there, and they say 70%. Here in Cape Town.
When was this?
This year. Okay. Just now. Now they said, well, a couple of months back, 2024 rather than 2024, 2024, not 2025, not 2025, 2024, just, a couple of months away. Yeah. Now, what they said.
Hold on, do you know what month it was held?
I think between November and October. Somewhere there, I can check exactly. There's a date on the brochure that I got.
If you have a report on that meeting, please share it with us.
I do have a report on that meeting. Okay. But the bottom line, they said 70% of the goals they have committed to are behind and they will not be executed by 2030.
Yes, so
that's the big issue.
But it's behind doesn't mean that it hasn't been done at all. So let's be more optimistic. Yeah.
No. But let me maybe finish my point. Let me finish my point so that you hear where I'm going. So the bottom line is this: there's been almost 100 years now since African Union, and Africa is still not united. We still have borders.
Hold on. Yeah. What do you mean 100 years? AU was
since 1963. Since 1963.
But that's not 100 years.
I'm saying it's been almost.
2025.
I'm saying it's been almost.
No, it's not almost. 2025. 2063 is a few years from now. We're not even in 2030, 2040, 2050, 2060.
2063 is going to be 100 years
from now, brother.
It's going to be 100 years from now. So the issue is they've had many decades to implement whatever they said since 1963. One of it was Africa must unite.
Brother Ndlovu, hold on, brother Ndlovu. The AU came into existence in 2002.
No. It was first Organization of African Union.
That was in
it
63.
Was first. Yeah, 1963. Organization of African Union.
OAU was not interested in the kind of things we are talking about now. It was just about protecting themselves at the time. Nkrumah, you recall, Nkrumah wanted a continental government at the time. They didn't want that. So the OAU was a compromise. And it effectively achieved some things, but it wasn't really about unification, the OAU. The OAU was set up specifically against unification. You see?
Yeah, but the intent of those who are fathers of Organization of African Union were saying Africa must unite now.
Well, now.
Yes. Those were the Nkwames. Those were the ideologies they were pushing for. Even Haile Selassie. So now, but nevertheless, okay, wait, let's not argue anyway. So here's where I'm going. Here's why I'm saying what I'm saying. So bottom line is this. Our governments in Africa, they have failed to unite Africa. They had ample of time, starting from Ghana independence until the youngest South Africa's independence. Now we've been in 3 decades with South Africa. So we have failed to unite the continent and create the environment for Africans and African diaspora with that passport, so they can fluidly move, so we can have our airlines, so we can trade, so we can do all of these things that are beautifully, eloquently put on this Agenda 6023. So maybe the missing part when it comes to implementation is to realize that they're not going to achieve it. Those that are in administration, they're never going to achieve it. So the condition for them to achieve it is that we all have to now assist our current administrations. So the fortunate part is that we have new administrations that have ascended. They're slightly different to the older configuration. I think there was a change in most administrations. Now I think it's an opportunity for us to come along, all us as Pan-Africanist groups, and say, look, we now realize we can't just keep looking at our governments to implement these things. It has to be all of us. So maybe what we need to do now is participate actively in each administration so that we accelerate the implementation. If all of us are united across the globe, a lot of these resolutions can be implemented. I mean, look at the...
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. We haven't a lot of time left. 3 people's hands are up. We need to hear everyone. Your point is taken. I think you are too pessimistic, but I think you are on point to say that we should get involved. But I think South Africa is not really interested in this unification thing, is it? I mean, South Africa. I mean, you even attack your own brothers and sisters from your neighboring countries in your country. So South Africa. I mean, I don't know what you think, but anyway, let's hear from Sister Tapua. We've heard from a brother. Let's hear from a sister.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we've only got 10 minutes left, so sorry. Let's make it shorter so we can hear from everyone. Thanks.
I've always been one for advocating that the people we should make sure that the organization aligns with the people. So if the people, the ordinary man in the street, feels that being African is a negative thing, we're not going to get much unity between ourselves. And if there's no education that takes place that makes, for example, South Africans and Zimbabweans and the Southern African region Africans understand what's happening and understand the powers that are being manipulated for us to get onto each other's neck, then it becomes an issue. And if we're pointing fingers and saying South African this, South African that, without giving it much analysis, then we have a problem. Because from my point of view, what we have is a colonial legacy that has left seeds of division amongst us and seeds of deifying whiteness. For example, in Zimbabwe, I feel like I'm fighting a lone battle, because if I go to the marketplace and I want to buy something, people who are trying to get me to buy will call me Murungu wangu, you know, my white man. And I turn around and I say, to them, why are you calling me white man? We've been fighting white men. Just to call our auntie, our grandfather and father.
Tapua, sorry to interject. You have a minute left to speak. Thank you.
Oh. Anyway, I think where we find ourselves is we need to make sure people have confidence in our identity as Black people. Because what comes to mind is Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, where at the close of the novel, he says, it's my brother. The problems that we have is because my brother has gone on to the other side. So when we're coming from Europe or coming from anywhere else, I think the people are justified in thinking that we are on the other side, not on their side, because there is deliberate maneuver by the Western countries to make sure that anyone who's a bright spark in Africa gets a scholarship. And once you get
Tapua, thank you. Thank you. Brother Samuel, got 2 minutes, please. Thank you. Brother Samuel, you need to unmute yourself. I can see you are struggling to unmute yourself, Brother Samuel. So I'll come back to you. Brother General. Raspala, 2 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, give thanks for Elder just quickly. Me, what I'm just going to say is that the AU is a CIA program for white supremacy. So it's never been African. And the AU was the one for the Black people. That's why it was toppled. So my point is that 2063 is not going to happen. They're just playing with our minds. We have ice caps, polar ice caps now that are melting and falling in the ocean. The coastal areas are starting to flood now as we speak. The polar ice shift has already shifted. It's out of balance, you see. So in these coming years, I think by 2027, we're going to have a big catastrophe in the world. So I don't see this point of 2063. It's just a play. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the sister. Sister Ida.
Hello. Hi. I was going to follow on with what you and Sister Tapua have been saying about.
That's fine. You got 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. About, you know, when you go back home, people start calling you that you've come from abroad. Yet today, I was sending around videos, a video that was about the fact that 300 white people have been made Ghanaian citizens. And, you know, I was asking around, what can this be about? Why is this happening? And others were asking, is the diaspora still having problems getting citizenship? And then somebody suddenly said something which clicked a bell, which is the fact that you need a Ghana card to have a passport, to be able to do any sort of business. So that to me made sense. And I think there's something that we should be taking up, because how can it be that just because people have money, they can get Ghanaian citizenship? After all, it was Ghana who had the time of return. And look who they're saying is returning. Where do white people belong to in Ghana? I found it, you know, I find it insulting that now that we found out, we should be taking it on, because the diaspora that they say, AU say they're going to have, it swings and roundabouts to get onto it.
Thank you. Please bear in mind that if you are a Ghanaian and you marry a white man and vice versa, you can't get a British passport even though you are an African. So I don't think that's a problem. Also, bear in mind that there are Africans who have white relatives. So bear that in mind. So
what?
Right.
So what?
Brother Samuel, are you able to speak? Because you had problems unmuting yourself. You got 2 minutes. Brother Samuel, the African diaspora.
He says he can't connect in the chat.
Yeah, I see he was really struggling. In that case, Sapua, will come back to you another 2 minutes.
And I'd like you to come back to me as well, because I'm quite insulted with your answer.
Are up, so we will take Sister Tapua 2 minutes.
I thought you come.
Sorry?
I thought you are sharing for everybody to speak.
Did you want to speak?
Yes.
Okay, in that case, can you speak now then?
Okay, so concerning the citizenship that Sister Ida was talking about, you see, it's the churches. When the missionaries come here, they have the churches backing them and seeking for the citizenship for them. So the immigration have no say when the churches submit the right document for the citizenship to be given to the white people. I've had first-hand experience where I took a brother who is a diaspora to the immigration, and this white man just came, jumped the line, and got the citizen, the work permit, and all those stuff, regardless of all because of the churches that they have over here. So the churches, that's one of the problems that the churches pose to us as people over here. So we should look at those angles as well too.
Yeah, but brother the King, let's be careful here. I have said earlier that as I sit here, I have relatives who are white. So please, let's just be mindful that the fact somebody is white doesn't mean that they don't have a right to Ghanaian citizenship. If a Ghanaian, if it's a white person and they have a right to live in Ghana, they can apply for citizenship, just like we can apply for citizenship in England. This is not an issue, please, as far as I am concerned. The CSG is not going to make this an issue. This is not an issue. I don't think this is an anyway. The time is 2 minutes to 7, and
can I know one?
You can't. I'm sorry, Sister Ida.
I find what you're saying really offensive.
I'm sorry, Sister Ida. I have white. Sister Ida, I have white relatives.
So there's a lot of other people. I have white relatives. I don't expect them to be Ghanaians.
Well, we can't have that discussion now. Let's have a discussion another time. I remember when we raised this issue of skin color, you were very offended. If you remember, you didn't want us to have that discussion, which we did.
Well, I do want it about Ghana.
If you want us to have this discussion again, I'm happy for us to have it.
I think we should.
Yeah, we can't have it today because of time. And today is Agenda 2063. Thank you. So, Brother Samuel, are you able to speak? Because I know you were struggling. Can you speak now? Brother Samuel, you still can't speak. Okay. Sister Tapua, I'm sorry that you couldn't finish all your point, but I'll give you a preference in the next meeting. Probably be a good idea, Sister Tapua, as you're an educator, that you try and speak earlier, because you have a lot of good points all the time. Yeah. So thank you. So the time is 8 o'clock. So we've come to the end of the session. Brother Pigeon.
So I don't have much to say, just to notify members that I'll ensure that the recordings are available, of course, next week for these sessions. And please come earlier a bit, because we started almost 10 minutes late. So please come earlier a bit so that you can be able to share much and we can be able to engage. We are only here for 2 hours, and that's basically what you do. So next week, I'll share the recordings, and we can, if you feel that we should have further conversation on this, we can do that, we can consider that. But thank you for your time, and let's look forward to next Thursday for our philosophy class on Saturday. But the coming Saturday, I hope you have the topic. I'm trying to go through it, but we'll announce the topic for the next Saturday as well in advance.
Yeah, we will. And we'll set up what Sister Ida has mentioned as part of, because it has implications for continental unification. Who can, and that is linked to the passport, African passport issue. Who can hold an African passport? Do you have to be, if you are white, doesn't mean you can't hold an African passport? So that's something we need to discuss. So, yeah. Yes, brother Pigeon. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that.